Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome President and CEO of the Tempe Chamber of Commerce, Ann Gill.
Good morning and welcome to the Tempe Chamber's 22nd Annual State of the City Address. Thank you for joining us today for this interactive and informative broadcast. This event and our partnership with the city are extremely important to us and allows us to continue to build on the great foundation we have established over many years. Thank you to my team for their hard work on this event and to the Mayor's office for your partnership. Due to the COVID-19 world that we are living in right now, we don't have an in-person audience, but we do have every one of you watching wherever you are watching from right now. So thank you so much for tuning in, each and every one of you. For more than 112 years, the Tempe Chamber has been dedicated to sustaining Tempe's quality of life and keeping our community and economy vibrant, and I've been honored to serve as the President and CEO and continuing this tradition for the past 4 years. During this crisis, Tempe businesses have made extraordinary efforts to ensure residents had access to limited supplies, meals and food, critical services, and also protecting and providing for their staffs. The Tempe Chamber has advocated on behalf of the business community to ensure that federal, state, and local agencies and elected officials understand the economic damage that COVID-19 and the related public policy responses have inflicted on the Tempe business community in general and our members in particular. These businesses drive our local economic engine, and every single one of them is essential to us. They are the backbone of the city's economy and the spirit of building the future. They need for us to collectively work together to remain strong and supportive of one another, and that needs to continue. Our next chapter as a community is on the not-so-distant horizon, and we are proud to bring you this year's State of the City Address. This morning, I look forward to hearing Mayor Woods speak about our strength and resiliency as the city. But before we do, I'd ask that you all please rise wherever you are for the national anthem to be performed by the ASU Pitchforks a cappella group.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
And thank you to the Pitchforks for helping us continue that tradition. And today's event wouldn't be possible without the generous support of our sponsors. And I'd like to take a moment to recognize each and every one of them. We are proud to recognize our presenting sponsor, Edward Jones, our platinum sponsors, the City of Tempe, Silicon Valley Bank, and Waymo. Our gold sponsors, Arizona State University, UA Local 469 Plumbers and Pipe Fitters, and Southwest Airlines. Our silver sponsors, BD, Canopy Hotel Tempe Downtown, United Phoenix Firefighters Local 493, Lumen, formerly known as CenturyLink, Phoenix Sky Harbor International Airport, Salt River Project, State Farm, Tempe St. Luke's Hospital, United Dairymen, Versum Materials, and Wells Fargo. And our copper sponsors, APS, Dignity Health, Downtown Tempe Authority, Gamage and Burnham, attorneys at law, Hound, Novus Innovation Corridor, Southwest Gas, and the Tempe Tourism Office. And thank you to our event partners, Video West, Flash Photo Video, and Heidi's Catering and Events. I'd also like to recognize our community champions. These are the organizations who lead our community in giving back and want to make Tempe a great place to live, work, and do business. Their investment fuels our work at the Tempe Chamber to build a sustainable community where business thrives. Thank you to Arizona State University, BD, Cox Business, Edward Jones, SRP, Silicon Valley Bank, State Farm, the City of Tempe, Tempe St. Luke's Hospital, and Wells Fargo for your role as a top investor and helping us advance our community. And we'd also like to recognize our local leaders who have tuned in today and who share our never-ending commitment to a thriving city and state. Of course, Mayor Corey Woods, Vice Mayor Randy Keating, Councilmember Jennifer Adams, Councilmember Robin Arredondo Savage, Councilmember Doreen Garlid, Councilmember Lauren Kuby, and Councilmember Joel Navarro. In addition, we'd like to thank all of our elected officials from around the state who are joining us virtually this morning, as well as Tempe City Manager Andrew Ching for your leadership and dedication to public service. Thank you all for your commitment to make Tempe a great place to live, work, do business, and play. Before we continue, a quick reminder, we are raffling off a pair of Southwest Airline e-passes. Thank you, Southwest, for your strong support of this chamber, the city of Tempe, and the state of Arizona. We consider ourselves lucky to work with such a strong force in our community, and we will be drawing the winning number at the end of today's event. So you purchase tickets, use the link that's in the chat, and raffle sales will close at 8:45 this morning, so don't delay. And there are more chances to fly Southwest Airlines when you play along with our ever-popular progressive trivia contest. We are sending a link in the chat that will take you to an online form where you can answer 10 easy trivia questions that pertain to today's program. Listen closely, play along, and when the program closes at 9 a.m., the first 20 correct submissions will win a $100 Southwest Airlines gift card. And these gift cards do not expire. And while we may be virtual this morning, let's all do our best to be social today. So please share your experience of today's program on social media, and be sure to tag at Tempe Chamber and use the hashtag TempeChamberSOC. As we continue our program this morning, I'd like to conclude my remarks by again thanking our generous presenting sponsor, Edward Jones. It's my pleasure to share a short video from them, so let's hear from Edward Jones.
It's a challenging market. You're well aware of that. Edward Jones is too, which is why we're here, ready to listen and ready to help you find opportunity, something we've been doing since 1922 in good markets and bad.
So, let's talk.
Edward Jones, it's time for investing to feel individual.
And so this year, rather than an introduction of the mayor from a representative of Edward Jones, they wanted to hand off that privilege to someone who knows Mayor Woods the best. We are honored to bring you that introductory message this morning from Mayor Woods' father, Mr. Donald Woods.
Good morning. My name is Donald Woods. My son, Corey Woods, is the mayor of Tempe, Arizona, and I've been asked to introduce him as he prepares to deliver his first State of the City address. At this time, my only regret is that Corey's mom, Barbara, who is my loving wife of 43 years, did not live to see this moment. She was a high school business education teacher who taught in major urban public school systems, including Atlanta, Detroit, and New York City. Her dedication and commitment to education as a primary stepping stone to professional success was emphasized to both Corey and his younger brother, Brandon. She would be proud and pleased with how things have turned out for both our boys. People often ask if Corey calls me for advice. My answer is that Corey is a seasoned public servant who served for many years in the nonprofit and education sectors. He was also elected for 2 four-year terms on the Tempe City Council, and in 2020 was elected mayor. While I am full of opinions, some of which might even be correct, Corey is now in a position where he has an informed network of people who can help him shape plans and policies for Tempe. While he will always be my son, as we speak today, he is your mayor. So it is my pleasure to introduce your mayor, Corey Woods.
So first of all, I want to say thank you to my father. It's incredibly touching to have him do that, given the fact that my swearing in back on July 2nd was canceled due to myself, frankly, getting COVID-19. And even my election night party on March 2nd, he wasn't able to attend due to the COVID virus really spiking during that time. So I really wanted to thank Edward Jones and the Tempe Chamber of Commerce for giving him the opportunity to do that. It was nice to finally have him be able to be part of this experience for me. So it's incredibly moving to me, and I wanted to say thank you to my father. I really appreciate all of you participating in this very special day for me. And to my dad, I know Mom would be very proud of this moment and how you, Brandon, and I have continued watching out for each other every single day. I want to thank everyone taking time out of their day to tune in. I've never been much of a morning person, so I sincerely appreciate the fact that you are spending your morning with me and members of the Tempe City Council. I know that this year's State of the City may look a little different than usual, but then again, so has my whole term as mayor so far. I want to point out a few other differences in this year's State of the City, aside from the virtual delivery of this event. Normally, the State of the City consists of the mayor giving approximately a 30 to 45-minute speech. Given that we've all, though, transitioned to virtual, I wanted to take a very different approach. Instead of hearing only from me, you will hear from all of my council colleagues. So I want to sincerely thank them for their participation. Thank you as well, once again, to the Tempe Chamber of Commerce for hosting this event. However, I did not want this event to solely focus on Tempe from an economic lens. While I know this has traditionally been the case, in my eyes, the business community is impacted by everything that takes place in this city, whether it be investments to infrastructure or investments into our human services department. There is plenty going on in the city to talk about and take up this entire morning. But what you're going to hear about today is very specific to the programs and initiatives that the city has focused on to alleviate the burden of the negative impacts due to COVID-19. So without further ado, or any more words from me, I present you the 2020 State of the City Address. Becoming mayor of the city of Tempe has been a dream of mine for quite some time. But I could have never imagined the circumstances under which I would have taken office. Due to getting COVID-19 myself, I was sworn into office in my own living room, the first time that's ever happened in the city of Tempe's history. And I immediately faced a huge budget shortfall, one that impacted Tempe's programs and services. So many people have asked me how my first 4 months as mayor have been, and I would say they've been a little bit interesting. But fortunately, I knew the job was going to come with challenges, and I'm more than prepared to meet them. I knew this job was going to take a lot of hard work, a lot of long hours, and lots of collaboration. So I know these last few months have been exceptionally challenging. We've all had to worry about how to transition school and work to online. We've dealt with financial uncertainty and just sort of managing the daily emergencies that pop up any Monday through Sunday. I'm here today to tell you that we stand committed to supporting you, our residents. The Tempe City Council, despite all of the challenges and all of the uncertainty, is here to provide support. There are no better people to tell the story about how Tempe is not only meeting, but exceeding our collective challenges than the Tempe City Council members themselves. Vice Mayor Randy Keating's going to talk to you a little bit today about how important it is that we continue to support our small business community. Did you know that you can get a $10,000 grant from the city of Tempe?
We are all in the process right now of distributing $1.1 million in grants to our local and small businesses so they can pay bills, keep their talented staff, and maybe even hire additional employees. Today, October 30th, is the deadline to get your application in. If you have fewer than 100 employees, your business might qualify for up to $10,000. COVID-19 has required Tempe businesses to purchase large quantities of masks, hand sanitizer, and other cleaning supplies. To help the city of Tempe use its purchasing power earlier this week and distributed thousands of masks and gallons of hand sanitizer to as many as 1,000 Tempe-based businesses. When the stay-at-home order was enacted, we knew that Tempe's businesses were going to suffer. Tempe turned to Hound, a homegrown technology company to help businesses offer Buy Now, Save Local support vouchers. These vouchers are like gift cards. The businesses get money now, and you can use them anytime you want. The program was so successful that other cities in Arizona have jumped on board. Today, we are working with Gilbert, Mesa, Apache Junction, and Queen Creek on a holiday special that will encourage people to shop locally and support the businesses that make Tempe and the East Valley so special. Today, we are seeing a record number of permit requests. Many of these are from people taking the opportunity to renovate while they are home from work, helping to make their home more usable for school, for work, or simply for better enjoyment as they are there much more frequently. On average, we have about 50 requests per week for building permits, both residential and commercial. Lately, that number has risen to as many as 73. Even with all the difficulties, we've had some amazing moments this year. We've been thrilled to watch Tempe businesses pivot to help each other and our residents. Our distilleries switched from making small batch liquors to life-saving hand sanitizer. Fabric, our fashion incubator, morphed from designing evening wear to sewing reusable surgical gowns. And we've had many entrepreneurs take the big leap of deciding that yes, now is the time to open. I'm standing at one of those success stories right now. The Canopy Hotel was getting ready to open in March when the pandemic reached Arizona. Rather than completely stopping, a handful of dedicated staff finished the job of furnishing the rooms and getting the hotel ready to be open. If you haven't visited this rooftop, you're missing one of the best views in our great city. And of course, the restaurants and rooms are wonderful too. Dixon Flannel opened a warehouse, and Spearmint Love, a children's online clothing shop, expanded into Tempe. Postino's opened in my neck of the woods, down in South Tempe. Mirabella, ASU's state-of-the-art retirement high-rise, will open later this year. We even broken ground on a Westin hotel. The Watermark office and residential development not only opened, but brought nearly a dozen retail shops and restaurants. And in the Tempe Maker District, the United Dairymen of Arizona celebrated 60 years of being in Tempe.
Whether you're a long-standing business or a newer business, the city of Tempe is here to support you. And speaking of newer businesses, one of my personal favorites, Cotton & Copper, just reopened following all of the proper safety protocols. So come on in and check it out. The city of Tempe stands prepared to help our business community during what is a really challenging time. The fact is, we're always open to hearing creative, innovative solutions that will help all of our businesses here continue to be successful. The fact that people continue to open up new businesses and expand existing ones is a sign of how exceptional a place Tempe, Arizona truly is. And even during the pandemic, we've continued to invest in capital improvements to make sure that necessary infrastructure is maintained. To hear more about that, I'm going to turn it over to Councilmember Joel Navarro, who's going to give you even more information about how we continue to invest in our city.
Of the many ways that the pandemic and stay-at-home orders have affected us, one of the positive benefits has been the reduction of traffic in our streets. During this time, Tempe has taken advantage of the situation and extended normal conservative construction work hours. We were able to not only complete projects safer and faster, but we were able to complete multiple projects at the same time. One of the projects that have progressed greatly is our streetcar. We're in the fourth quarter of our construction of our Tempe streetcar. When completed, it will be the Valley's first ever modern streetcar line. Traffic from both residents and ASU students fell sharply during 2020, but construction of the streetcar line continued at a tremendous pace. Set to open in 2021, the 3-mile route will serve one of the highest transit ridership centers in the region. Over the last year, Tempe staff prioritized the transformation of our bus shelters, including prioritizing seating, cooling, and shade. When completed, the shelter will be a unique, iconic symbol representing our commitment to a strong transportation network and valuing rider experience. During this year, we were also able to continue investing in our vision of being one of the premier bicycle and pedestrian-friendly cities in our state. We are excited to announce we added more miles to our bicycle and pedestrian network with completion of 4 projects. This year, we're able to complete the Highland Canal Path, Rio Salado Multi-Use Path, Western Canal Multi-Use Path Extension, and bike lanes on College Avenue.
As you heard from Councilmember Navarro, even though we are in the middle of a pandemic, the city still accelerated programs to maintain our critical infrastructure, such as streets, rights-of-way, and other things that really are imperative for our city's long-term health. The City of Tempe is committed to continuing making these necessary infrastructure improvements to make sure that we are truly a sustainable, resilient city moving well into the future. Just like all of you, this pandemic forced us to quickly move a lot of our services online. The Community Services Division came up with a great program called Tempe at Home that's allowed people to have access to exercise programs and library services all at the touch of a screen. While the virtual world certainly has its benefits, we all know that it's come with its fair share of challenges. And nothing has changed more than how we have to educate our children during this time. The City of Tempe has worked really hard to ensure that there are programs and services that will serve your students during this very uncertain time. I'm now going to turn it over to Councilmember Robert Arredondo Savage to tell you a little bit more about some of those programs.
As a community, we pivoted to a complete virtual way of learning. It hasn't been easy, and not everyone has had equal access to the tools they need for a full online learning experience. We have set aside $150,000 to assist our Tempe students who need it most. This money will be used to reduce the digital divide to ensure equal access for everyone. As many of you know, not all of our Tempe students are back on campus. Yet many parents and guardians need to return to work. To assist our families in need, the City of Tempe has set aside $212,000 to fund quality childcare and provide access to our Tempe Pre and Kid Zone programs. Getting people back to work and educating our children is vital to our economic recovery. It is an absolute necessity to establish our future skilled workforce, and that begins at preschool all the way through college and beyond. We've also set aside more than $430,000 for youth counseling services. COVID-19 has made it harder for everyone to express themselves or to ask for help. So many people are isolated or don't have strong support networks. These services are instrumental to ensuring our students have the social and emotional support they need to thrive. Our youth specialists are positively impacting the lives of our students and their families.
Thank you, Councilmember Arredondo Savage, for talking about all of the programs the City of Tempe invests in on behalf of our students. We realize it's important that every child in the City of Tempe gets a quality education so they can be successful in college, career, and life. Another thing we all realize as members of the Tempe City Council is that not everyone starts at the same exact place. That's why we're truly focused on equity and inclusion programs to make sure that Tempe can continue to be the best place moving forward. That's why I'm going to have Councilmember Lauren Kuby talk to you about some of the initiatives the city is currently engaged in.
The availability of services can change the direction of a person's life, from poverty and truancy to financial education and graduation, from unemployed to entrepreneur, from forgotten student to activist to community leader. We know that equity is elusive, so we're looking for the places where opportunity is lacking for many. One way we can build a more economically just society is through equal access to money and credit. We're looking for a local loan fund to offer financial education and inclusion for communities of color and low-income residents. Many people aren't aware that without good credit or a large first deposit, it's difficult, if not impossible, to get a checking account. Without a checking account, you can't build credit, and without credit, you can't get a credit card or a loan. Our new financial inclusion program will help people build credit and generational wealth. We've set aside $300,000 to jumpstart this program. When we invest in our residents, we're investing in a strong, healthy future for Tempe. We live in challenging times, but in Tempe, we don't shy away from our problems. Instead, we seize the day to build consensus and craft solutions. This all hands-on-deck approach is both our heritage and our future.
Thank you, Councilmember Cubie, for taking the time to talk about all of the city's active efforts in the areas of diversity, equity, and inclusion. But speaking of equity, I want to take a moment to turn the focus to some of the many programs we're working on in our Human Services Division. They are working diligently to help people who are many times experiencing monumental challenges. And so for that, I'm going to turn to Councilmember Jennifer Adams to speak more about some of those programs.
I am especially proud of our CARE 7 Crisis Intervention Program. In fact, I helped train the original counselors when the program first started. CARE 7 has recently expanded services to offer free stress management counseling and adapted the Youth Specialist Program to provide virtual support for high schoolers. As we look forward to the future, we know that increasing this work is critical to meet our community's physical and mental health needs. Assisting victims of domestic violence will be an important part of our plans, as it starts here in an apartment just like this. In fact, the city currently offers 5 fully furnished emergency apartments for those fleeing violence. In the coming year, we will add another 4 units. Nonprofits have played a huge role in serving our residents during this pandemic, and we will continue to rely on them. We are investing $500,000 in nonprofit grants. This will help meet more needs like food, transportation, legal assistance, and social and emotional support. These grants follow another round of funds we made available earlier this year for nonprofits providing homeless-related services. The city has taken a leading role in fighting opioid addiction, and it's more important than ever. During the pandemic, we've seen the number of people struggling with substance abuse increase dramatically. Tempe Fire has partnered with Tempe Police and the Tempe Coalition in the past to provide education and resources centered around opioid abuse to Tempe Union High School District students. These partners now plan to expand this effort more broadly in the community, focusing on a critical message. Opioid abuse does not discriminate among populations. It can impact anyone at any time. The department equipped all patrol officers with Narcan and partnered with the behavioral health agency La Frontera Impact Suicide Prevention Center. They work together to act in the moment by administering Narcan and provide rapid 24/7 wraparound behavioral health support. To date, our officers have saved almost 50 lives in our community. That's incredible, and have been able to contact residents with ongoing care to improve their lives.
Our first responders do incredible work in our community. One of the things I've been really focused on during my tenure as mayor is finding ways to bring people even closer together. Many of you know I started a public safety advisory task force to talk about the future of public safety moving forward in our community. We're looking forward to bringing back a plan in January that will talk about ways to continue to build upon our shared values and move forward as a city. COVID-19 has been a tremendous challenge for all of us. Thousands of Tempe residents have struggled with it on a very personal level. But imagine the challenge of trying to stay safe and not having a home to go to. That's why the city of Tempe continues to be proactively involved in all efforts to assist those who are experiencing homelessness. I want to turn to our newest council member, Doreen Garland, to talk about the programs the city of Tempe is actively engaged in.
It's fitting that we're here at the historic Elias Rodriguez house. This family home was once a welcoming place to gather with friends and neighbors. Today, it's a place where human services staff connect with residents about our family self-sufficiency program and our emergency home repair program. Soon, our staff will be working with residents financially impacted by the pandemic to distribute nearly $2 million in emergency rent and mortgage assistance. A new community hub, the Envision Center, is the centerpiece of our recovery efforts. The center will open in a city-owned facility on Apache Boulevard and will focus on economic empowerment, educational advancement, health and wellness, character, and leadership. We started planning for this center long before the pandemic. It is even more critical now to provide a wide range of services, all in one location. Another piece of recovery planning includes expanding shelter options for those who are experiencing homelessness or at risk of homelessness. We are purchasing 5 new units for what we call bridge housing. These units will be eligible to residents in need of housing due to the financial losses from the pandemic. But the work doesn't stop there. We will connect these tenants with case managers so they can get access to services through the city or our partners. That might be free preschool, or a food box, or finding a new job. We will also expand temporary shelter capacity and social services at local hotels, as we have done during the pandemic. This allows our HOPE team to work with clients while they are safe and stabilized to plan for their futures. One young woman was sleeping outdoors, and our HOPE team was able to offer her a shelter at a hotel. Team members then located the needed documents to help her complete a housing application. Once she was approved for housing, the team found her an apartment and paid for the move-in deposits. Now this young woman is living in her own one-bedroom apartment and busy making it a home with things like oven mitts so she can bake, a tea kettle, candles, and a calendar. She says she is grateful to everyone helping her fill her new space within her words: love, peace, and the feeling of home.
Thank you so much for joining us for the 2020 State of the City Address. You had a chance to listen to every member of the Tempe City Council speak about various aspects of our city. We're continuing, despite the COVID-19 pandemic, to invest in our infrastructure. But more importantly, we're continuing to invest in you, our citizens. And so with that said, let's finish out 2020 strong and head even stronger into 2021. Thank you, Tempe. So I appreciate you taking the time to check out that video. I think it would probably give anyone who watches it a clear idea and a sense as to the direction that the city of Tempe is headed in, moving well into the future. We are truly determined to help our community navigate through what is an exceptionally challenging time. And you have my commitment to remain focused and dedicated on thinking through solutions to work on your business, your neighborhood, and to work with your family so that Tempe can continue to make waves in the desert. And before I join Ann Gill for our Fireside Chat, let us hear a quick word from our platinum sponsor, Silicon Valley Bank.
There is deep concern about protective equipment.
Doctors, nurses, paramedics, they've all talked to us about a lack of supplies.
We really offered up the help because we had already gotten a very strong indication that there was a PPE shortage. We're like, we have design, develop, and manufacturing expertise here. This is something we can do. We want to do it, and we threw in our hat to help support that effort.
We thought that we needed to craft a response quickly for health, food, and shelter-related needs of the communities where we operate. I wouldn't say to our surprise, but to our gratification, the executive committee came through very quickly with a commitment of $5.5 million in new money for charitable giving, which for SVB was a significant step. And we wanted to make sure that we engaged SVBers in this process and those in their regional offices who know the local needs best.
Mark and I conducted due diligence and spoke with over a dozen 501c3 entities focused on our community. And our goal was to determine the specific needs of those 501c3s given the COVID-19 environment.
When Nancy called us, she was like, I want to help you. And it's almost like, really? There was no hoops, and she understood the urgency that we needed the request and just made it happen for us.
Our initial grant funding was $40,000, and that was to help Fabric spin up and actually repurpose their location in order to get the equipment in that was needed in order to meet the demand of our local hospitals and first responders.
We started with this idea mid-March. We were already producing gowns the second week of April and really got into heavy production on April 21st. And as of, I think it's going to be Monday or Tuesday next week, we're going to hit the 100,000 gown mark as far as gowns that have been delivered to the local healthcare system.
I just think the world of the executive director at Fabric, as well as the co-founders, because they took a lot of risk and put others first.
All right, well, thank you, Mayor Woods, for that, collaborative approach to the state of the city. It was really informative, and it was great to hear from the council members and see you all just working as such a strong team. Some of the questions we had coming in today from some of our viewers, and we'll just kind of dive into a little chat, if you don't mind.
Sounds good to me.
All right. So I guess, one of the things we want to know how you're doing. I mean, did you ever think that when you were running for mayor of Tempe that you would be taking on everything that has just happened in the past few months? I mean, we've had a pandemic, protests, just to name a few. So how are you doing?
I think when you run for a job like this, you have to accept the fact that things many times change. When I first ran for council when I was 28 years old, the first election I won back in 2008, there was, at the time I was running in sort of mid to late 2007, we were talking about transportation needs, talking about human services needs, economic development. And then the Great Recession hit. And so all of a sudden, we were no longer talking about a lot of the priorities I talked about on the campaign trail. We were merely trying to keep the city afloat. So this is a very similar situation right now, where I was running talking about traffic congestion, economic development, affordable housing, and a whole host of other issues. But the challenge of being mayor and being a member of the city council is you have to be prepared to meet the challenge of any given moment or any issue that pops up. And so, I'm confident in my ability to do the job, given the prior 8 years of experience I had being a city council member, and I'm confident that I've got the right city council in place to assist me in doing that work, and a great city staff as well.
And, and in addition to that, you mentioned earlier that you tested positive for COVID-19. How are you feeling? What was that experience like?
So I did. I actually had 3 COVID tests. I believe I initially tested positive back on June 30th. I had another test, I believe, on July 9th where I tested positive again. And then finally on July 15th, tested negative and was completely cleared. But I was quarantined not even for 14 days, but for 21. Because my concern was, even though I did the mandatory 14-day period, due to sort of being a public servant for the community, I wanted to make sure that if people saw me out walking around in public, they knew I had a negative test to go along with it. So I stayed inside for another 7 days even after that. I can tell you, even someone like me, you could eventually run out of stuff to watch on Netflix or Hulu. So that's kind of a challenge. So the first 14 days were okay. The last 7, I was pretty much kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel. But I can say that I feel great now. My symptoms at the time that I've kind of talked about in public were I had a really bad fever the first day, a couple of days of really bad body aches. The only lingering symptoms were for about 2 to 3 weeks, I couldn't really smell or taste anything, and I didn't have great lung capacity, so I more or less stopped working out, which I really love to do, for about a month. But I, after that was over with and my lung capacity began to come back, I got right back in the gym, and I'm feeling just fine at this point. I don't have any lingering symptoms, and full of energy, and was here bright and early this morning, so I'm ready to go.
Yes, you were. We heard that you're not a morning person, so we thank you for getting up early.
I am definitely not. For anyone who's known me for quite some time, they know that many times getting out of bed first thing in the morning, I can barely string together a coherent sentence. But I was so excited to be here today and to talk with the residents of Tempe and be here for the Tempe Chamber, so I was raring to go.
Awesome, excellent. So you've been in office for 4 months, as we just mentioned, rather unique time in Tempe's history. And you also mentioned that you obviously served on council, as we know. So how is being in the mayor's position different from your previous council member experience?
There's just more responsibility. I think the challenge is that many times when you're a council member, if you express interest in certain key issues, residents will approach you on certain things. It becomes like when I was a council member, many times I would get approached about things for neighborhoods because I used to spend a lot of time going to neighborhood meetings, or I spent so much time as a really big advocate for affordable housing. So if there was an affordable housing concern, many times residents picked me and talked to me about that issue. Being the mayor, you don't really have the ability to pick and choose which issue you want to lead on. Anything that happens, you have to be pretty much at the forefront. Any issue that pops up that makes print media or television media, they call you and they want an interview with you, even if you have nothing to do with the issue. Even if you're not a person who supervises that area or a certain employee, they call you and they want a comment from you. So you're pretty much on 24/7, 365. I mean, there's just no ability to shut off at 5:01 on Fridays. You were working 7 days a week. And so I think the challenge is you have to be up to speed and up to date on every pivotal issue in the city, and you have to be prepared to work around the clock.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the issues that you tackled right away was government transparency. So during the retreat, and this is something the business community has been calling on for several years. So thanks to you and Vice Mayor Keating for kind of taking the lead on that. So how is the transition going to the public committee, subcommittee structure that'll be coming up, I think, in January?
Yeah, it's going really well. So the committee system was what we actually had in place during the majority of my first 2 terms on council. So it's a system that I'm very much familiar and comfortable with. We're right now working with the council to close out the remaining working groups under the current system. So we've given council members till the end of this calendar year, but then we plan on actually getting started with the new system in January of 2021. And those meetings will be open to the public, so people will have an opportunity to come and sit down, whether you're the Tempe Chamber of Commerce or any resident here within the city of Tempe. If it's a subject you're interested in or a committee where the subject matter interests you, you are more than welcome to join us and sort of watch some of the work product as we're discussing some of the ideas that end up on formal council meetings on a Thursday night.
Great. Well, we're grateful for that, and I'm sure the public and the business community look forward to being part of those conversations.
Absolutely.
So recently, the Urban Core Master Plan was set aside by council. So what should be the next steps for managing development in downtown?
So first I'll speak to the fact of why it was set aside in the first place. Really, during the course of my campaign, I spent a lot of time talking to residents, people in the business community, folks who were historic preservation activists, and they would many times say to me that no one was comfortable with the full plan. There were elements that everyone liked, but when it came to the entire size of the plan and the complexities that were contained within it, I couldn't sort of sense there was any consensus. And at one point, even during one of the final debates that we had for the campaign, I actually stated, I think that given all the conversation around this and the fact that this truly has the ability to shape the urban core for the next 5, 10, 15, or even 20 years, I think we need a plan that has more consensus from all of those stakeholders that I talked about before. Right. That doesn't mean that there aren't certain elements of the plan that we can't take out and begin to have conversations about. As a matter of fact, folks know that I spent, 8 years on council as a huge affordable housing advocate. And I think there were things we talked about with like the density bonus plan and trying to find ways to generate more money for our affordable housing trust funds. And so I would like to restart those conversations because we all know with our residents, getting more high quality affordable housing really is critical to maintaining the diversity of our city. And so I really would like to start that conversation again specific to that issue. And I do think there are other elements within the plan that did have consensus. I just think that all of it together as one big comprehensive plan was meeting resistance from all different folks in our community. And I think if you're going to try to pass something that big, you really need everyone to be on board, and I just didn't think that we were. But, going back to your question about how we move forward, I do think it's important that, myself and the council sit down with staff, take a look at some of the ideas that we do think had a lot of shared consensus throughout members of our community, and really do bring those items back for an up or down vote so we can move those items forward.
Well, we look forward to hearing what those items are and seeing how we can be involved in the conversation. We did have another question that came in this morning, and I'll read that to you if you don't mind. So please explain the recent change in the Tempe police leadership, and should businesses and citizens in Tempe be concerned that Tempe will bow to outside cries for defund the police or reinvent the police? So what is it that's going to make law and order essential for businesses and the community?
So I think I've got 3 points on this. So one, and this is just sort of an educational piece, many people don't know that with the police chief, the fire medical rescue chief, and all of our other department heads, those people are directly overseen by the city manager, Andrew Ching. We as a city council actually only directly supervise 4 employees: the city manager, city attorney, city clerk, and presiding judge of the court. And so many times when a change like this happens, we start getting, as council members, flooded with emails as if, we were directly involved in those sorts of personnel decisions, which we are not. We're not even allowed to by charter. So, so the fact is the police chief reports to Mr. Ching as the city manager. Our interim chief, Jeff Glover, was a 20-year representative of the Tempe Police Department. He retired back in February at the rank of commander, and I knew him when he was a lieutenant and a sergeant, so he's very well seasoned as a police officer, has a ton of respect within the Tempe Police Department, and I'm really proud and happy to have him as our interim chief. I also had a great relationship with our previous chief, Sylvia Moyer. I was part of the council that got to know her when she was appointed chief back in March of 2016, and we had a great relationship during the time that I was on council, and then when I restarted as mayor. But I have every confidence in Chief Glover that he's going to do an exceptional job on behalf of our community. To the other point, though, regarding outside interests, or a little bit during the video, we talked about the formation of the Public Safety Advisory Task Force. And that was actually a task force that was supported by the Tempe Police Department. I had conversations with them along the way, and along with people from our community before actually creating this group. And the police department actually put out a statement saying that we recognize that these are conversations that are happening on a regional and a national level, and we need to be part of those discussions, because I know our police department considers themselves to be leaders in this space. And so they said, while we think, we are doing an exceptional job in delivering services to the residents and to people working in the city of Tempe, we're always open to new ideas. We're always open to innovations. And I can say that over the last even month, I've actually taken the time to visit 2 of our police stations and talk to our officers and have conversations about the task force and talk about exactly what we're trying to accomplish collectively. But my perspective really is, it is about hearing from different people in the community about their experiences, also talking with members of our police department and figuring out kind of what our shared plans and values are moving forward. And I think the big thing I'd like to sort of, end that question on is, I think we have to recognize that there isn't a binary choice between talking about supporting law and order and talking about racial equality. Those are 2 things that are not in conflict with one another. I support having a safe, orderly society where people feel comfortable in their homes or going to the park or going to work or taking their kids to school. At the same time, if we are having a conversation nationally around these issues, I think it's important for the city of Tempe to lead the way and not follow. And so I think those conversations, it's not a binary choice. You don't have to be on this side or this side. You can have both conversations at the same time, and you can support both things at the same time.
Well, thank you for taking the lead on that. And, Tempe is innovative and has always been taking the lead, in my opinion, and especially during the pandemic. So from your perspective, has the COVID pandemic How has it impacted development in Tempe? Is it stepping back? Is it still growing? Where is development at?
We are still getting a large number of applications from people who want to develop new properties in Tempe, or people who want to open up or expand their current business. So it was interesting because I referenced my time when I first started on the council back in 2008, and during the Great Recession, all of the building permits stopped because everyone lost their construction financing, and so nothing got built pretty much during my first 2 to 3 years on council, which was pretty much back from 2008 to 2011. As a matter of fact, the first groundbreaking I attended as a member of the city council was at the end of my 3rd year, which was the Apache American Sign Language property over at Apache in Lebanon. So it took me 3 years to actually go to one of those ceremonial, groundbreaking ceremonies where you get a shovel and throw some dirt. In this situation, despite the COVID-19 pandemic, we're still getting people who are applying to build new developments in the city. So Tempe is still a very hot place to be. At the same time, there have been developers who've approached me and said, well, we were planning on building office, and so we're still wondering if we're going to continue to go down the road of building Class A office space or other kinds of office, or if we want to talk about perhaps building multifamily. They've talked about maybe changing the mix of some of the developments they were planning on building in the first place. So I think those are conversations that are going to continue to happen given the circumstances. But I can definitely say that despite the pandemic, Tempe is clearly a place that people still want to be in and still want to invest in.
And so how has it impacted the budget and city revenues?
Well, it's challenging. I mean, when I first started, I started on July 2nd of this year. I was immediately told that we had a $14 million budget shortfall due to COVID-19, and that's largely based on the fact that we get money from kind of 3 primary revenue sources: sales taxes, property taxes, and bed taxes. And so while the property taxes might have been somewhat stable, the sales taxes were down because people weren't going out as much as they used to. They weren't spending money because they weren't going out. And then you had the bed taxes, which are, hotel and lodging taxes from people traveling for business or for leisure. And because travel was pretty much shut down and people weren't going back and forth, or people weren't taking vacations the same way, we were obviously seeing a ton of declining revenue from people not kind of doing as much tourism as they were before. So that $14 million shortfall, that's real money.
Right.
And so, the city has had to tighten its belt in a lot of areas, and we've had to look at freezing certain positions. But at the end of the day, the thing that I'm most proud of our staff is that even in a virtual environment and in a place where you've got all the uncertainty and the challenges due to COVID-19, we're still delivering an exceptionally high level of service to our residents. I don't ever get emails from people saying, I feel like the service levels from employees and from staff has dropped off during this time because of COVID-19. I feel like the concerns are the same in terms of, hey, we'd like to get new park equipment out here, or we'd like to find new solutions to address, challenges pertaining to homelessness, or we'd like a different mix of businesses in certain parts of our city. But what I'm not hearing is we feel there's been a huge service level drop off. And so from my perspective, that's the highest compliment we could get from our residents and from our business community.
Yeah, great. And kind of looking at the time, maybe wrapping things up, maybe tell us some of your goals for this year, but then also, in looking towards the future, what do you see it's going to look like after your first 4 years?
So goals, there are so many, and the council, I think, really did a great job of outlining a lot of the direction of where the city's looking to head moving forward. But I've got a lot of goals when it comes to, looking at affordable housing. It's always been a big thing to me because I really do believe that to maintain the diversity of the city, from whether it's racial, socioeconomic, we have to make sure that we have housing for people of all different backgrounds, whether you're working in downtown as a server or as a bartender, or whether you're an attorney or a doctor or a teacher in one of our 3 school districts. We need to make sure that you have safe, high quality housing for people from all different backgrounds, all different demographics, all different professions. So I think it's critical to maintaining, who we are as a community. I think it's important that we continue to work on our human services. We have a lot of challenges when it comes to homelessness. The greater Metro Phoenix area from a regional standpoint has a lot of challenges, and I think it's imperative that we kind of double down on some of our existing strategies, but also talk about new innovative ways to address this challenge. And obviously economic development. We have to continue to help the business community when it comes to helping new businesses start up. helping existing businesses expand their footprint if they're ready to do that. That's how we generate much of the needed revenue that we need to make sure that we continue to pay our staff and therefore provide the services to our residents that they frankly have come to enjoy and, from my perspective, deserve.
And so to wrap things up, I have a lightning round of questions.
All
These
right.
are probably the most difficult ones of the day.
I am concerned, I'll tell you. I'm gonna get ready right here.
You have to be concise. I know that could be challenging. So favorite day of the week?
Oh, Friday.
Okay.
Of course.
Living for the weekend. Last song that you downloaded?
Last song that I downloaded? That's a great question. Wow. You know, it's interesting. I would say, can I give you two?
Sure.
So I was, and these are probably at two different opposite ends of the spectrum. I actually re-downloaded an old Jay-Z album, the American Gangster, actually, which is one of my favorite albums of all time, which was based on the movie that Denzel Washington and Idris Elba starred in years ago, which is one of my favorite Jay-Z albums of all time. And then I spent the weekend, too, last weekend, watching Bohemian Rhapsody. So I was going back and listening to the greatest hits of Queen.
Yeah, excellent.
So two opposite ends of the spectrum from a musical standpoint, but like I've got a pretty, wide array of tastes in music.
Excellent. So if you had a choice, would you choose to be invisibility option or a super strength? Super strong.
I would. Okay,
invisible?
in my profession right now, being mayor of the city of Tempe, I wish my superpower was the ability to read minds.
Oh, okay. So
it
you're
would be
taking
it would be very helpful on Thursday nights.
Yes, it probably would. And then the last question: who inspires you?
Oh, easily my father, my brother are my two biggest inspirations. My mother, who's no longer here, but they were easily the people who've inspired me the most. My parents really laid a great foundation for my brother and I in terms of what our values are and what we, have sort of always sought to become. I mean, I've always looked up to my parents. It's not an accident that I ended up in the education world for over 10 years. My mother was a teacher for 30 years in New York City public schools. My father was a nonprofit executive, so it wasn't an accident that I ended up in the nonprofit world. At some point in your life, you begin to realize that you think that you're this very unique person, and then you realize you're just sort of this blend of the two people that raised you and shaped you. And but I couldn't be prouder to be shaped and molded by by Donald and Barbara Woods. They're amazing people. My mom was an incredible woman, and my father's an incredible man. And my brother, I'm exceptionally proud of. Whenever I talk to Brandon, I can't believe the things that he's doing and what he's accomplished and the man he's become. He'll be 40 years old in less than 2 months, which is also shocking to you that my little brother is going to be 40. But I'm just so, I'm just incredibly proud of him. And we have this very friendly rivalry where he challenges me to be better and I challenge him to be better. But it's friendly. We're just trying to be the best possible human beings and the best possible men that we can be. And so my family is my #1 inspiration. I can't say enough positive things about them.
Yeah, fantastic. And my family inspires me as well. So Mayor Woods, so grateful to have you today and hear the state of the city and your vision for the future. So thank you so much for joining us. I could talk to you all day and have tons of questions, but unfortunately we're on a time limit here this morning. So now a word from our platinum sponsor, Waymo.
Hello, my name is Michelle Peacock, and I'm the Global Head of Public Policy for Waymo. Waymo is an autonomous driving technology company with a mission to make it safe and easy to get people and things where they need to go. We've been part of that Tempe community since 2016. We are so grateful for the support your city has shown us over the last 4 years. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you to all the people of Tempe, and in particular to Mayor Corey Woods, the Tempe City Council, and the Tempe Chamber of Commerce. In just a moment, we'll share a brief video with you to give you some insight into Waymo and our mission to improve road safety and provide mobility options for everyone. We look forward to being part of this community in 2021 and beyond. So thank you, Tempe.
Say hello to Waymo, the world's most experienced driver. The Waymo driver is what we call our self-driving technology. It has over a decade of real-world experience and has driven millions of miles. With Waymo One, we can make it safer and easier for you to get around, so you can spend more time doing what you love. And with Waymo Via, the same driver with the same deep experience can also deliver your packages or save you a trip to the dry cleaners. Or if you run a business, Waymo Via can help you transport whatever you need, making sure shipments arrive right when they're supposed to. This is the Waymo driver, a driver that's reimagining transportation for all of us.
And thanks again, Mayor Woods, for this morning's inspirational moments. I am so proud of our partnership and ready to work with you on many more initiatives to help move our city forward. Thank you for sharing your plans and vision for the future. The Tempe Chamber will continue to work by your side to serve as a voice of business, a catalyst for economic growth, and a champion for a strong community. Before we conclude and draw the winner for the Southwest Airlines e-passes, I would like to thank Edward Jones for their presenting sponsorship of today's program, and also to thank our other sponsors, our platinum sponsors, the City of Tempe, Silicon Valley Bank, and Waymo. Our gold sponsors, Arizona State University, Local 469 Plumbers and Pipe Fitters, Southwest Airlines. And our silver sponsors, BD, Canopy Hotel, Downtown Tempe, United Phoenix Firefighters, Local 493, Lumen, Phoenix Sky Harbor International Airport, SRP, State Farm, Tempe St. Luke's Hospital, United Dairymen, Versum Materials, and Wells Fargo. In addition, our copper sponsors, APS, Dignity Health, Downtown Tempe Authority, Gamage and Burnham Attorneys at Law, Hound, Novus Innovation Corridor, Southwest Gas, and the Tempe Tourism Office. And a big thank you to our event partners, Video West, Flash Photo and Video, Heidi's Catering and Events. And also just another round of applause, if you will, for the team here at Video West that we partnered with on our signature events. They've made a significant impact on our programming. Let's hear a little bit more about them.
Whether it's an all-hands meeting being broadcast to your employees online or your live annual conference and trade show, Video West will be at your side to produce and deliver your message on time and on budget for audiences of 10 or 10,000. Started in 1982 on a foundation that video would arguably become the most important and dynamic aspect of connecting people, Video West continues to be at the forefront of all live event technology. For nearly 40 years, we have provided communication solutions through audio, video, lighting, and staging for the global live events community. More recently, we have evolved to include online virtual, hybrid, and on-demand solutions for events of all sizes. The live event happens only once. Whether you are the president of a company, a world leader, or a national performing artist, everything must synchronize perfectly at precisely the right moment. We execute flawless events by providing exceptional detail that is based on physical, time, and communication parameters. We provide fail-safe equipment with online solutions and the engineers and production staff to make the right decision at the right time. Whether your event is happening at your national headquarters, in a hotel ballroom, or online, we fulfill your vision and elevate your audience's experience.
All right, and without further ado, we will draw from this huge box of raffle tickets the winner. And Michelle Johnston is the winner of the Southwest Airlines e-passes. So Michelle, we will be getting those out to you. And so I believe that also rounds out the trivia contest, so be sure to submit your submissions. And good luck to everyone, and thank you, Southwest Airlines, for your generous support. Thank you, Mayor Woods, the City of Tempe, the mayor's staff, and my amazing Tempe Chamber team who have worked diligently to make this event a success. It is truly a collaborative effort, and we are grateful to have such a wonderful partner in you. Finally, thank you all for tuning in. We understand it's not the same as being together, but we are very proud to bring you the content that you expect from your chamber. And remember, we are all stronger together. So be well and have a fantastic weekend.